I'm vengeance.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Movie Fanatics video. Today we're going to be getting into Batman directors Matt Reeves' comments on the possible villain for the upcoming and most anticipated film Batman 2. Before we even get into that, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button, and most definitely share. Now, Matt Reeves just made some comments on the SFX magazine via the Deadline about the possible Batman 2 villains. So before we even get into all that, let's go ahead and recap real fast the events in the first Batman movie that was in 2022. Now, if you haven't watched this movie yet, I highly recommend you watch it. It's not your typical Batman movie. I highly recommend that you watch it. I put it in the thriller category. I wouldn't exactly say it's an actual superhero movie because it was that freaking good. It had everything that you could possibly want in a thriller, and it just happened to be a superhero movie. But little quick summary about the first movie. The Riddler. He ends up uncovering the corruption of the founding families of Gotham City, which also there was some corruption with Bruce Wayne's family, Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne, that was exposed by the Riddler during the course of this movie. But it starts off with the Riddler end up killing the active mayor at the time, that was Don Mitchell Jr., end up killing him in his own home, and then ends up leaving riddles all around, a whole bunch of dead bodies that he ended up killing, which all these bodies that the Riddler was killing were all government most powerful officials, where we end up uncovering the secret of a secret informant that ended up shutting down a mob boss, Salvatore Maroni's operation, where that had the biggest plot twist, where it ended up having being Carmine Falcone as ended up being the informant, which big, huge plot twist. But obviously the Riddler ends up taking out Carmine Falcone. Gotham City is at this point has been exposed for what it is as far as the founding families, and the Riddler its end goal was to end up flooding out Gotham, end up having a following online, a cult following online, that was probably the most craziest thing, where that's how he ended up hiring his own henchmen, where everybody just had the same agenda, where obviously they ended up succeeding in blowing up Gotham City and flooding out Gotham City in the process trying to attempt to murder the elect mayor Bella Rio. But after the events of Batman 1, again, this movie takes place 2 years, so that'd be 2 years after Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, starts patrolling the city. So the events after that, because we made a video, I want to say at the beginning of the year, which is around like January-ish. Be sure to check that video out. It's in the description, where we did the possibility of what we could do with the next upcoming Batman 2 movie. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read you the quote from Matt Reeves, which states, "It's another mystery that's going to dig into the epic story about deeper corruption, and it goes into places that he couldn't even anticipate in the first one. The seeds of where this goes are all in the first movie, and it expands in a way that will show you aspects of the character you never got to see." All right, after watching the first movie, due to the groundedness of the movie, as far as like I'm just spitballing out here that we're not trying to add characters with the superpowers and stuff like that, kind of like what Christopher Nolan did with the Dark Knight series, that we're going to keep it a grounded thing. So again, if you didn't watch the video that we made earlier on this year, be sure to check that video out. I ended up wanting to sway over to the Clayface aspect of it, considering the fact that he hasn't actually made his debut on the live screen. I feel like if we was going to keep this concept of problem solving, this big mystery thing, which I felt like was an excellent element in the first Batman movie, I feel like Clayface would have been perfect for this, because he can transform into a whole bunch of different people, and he's a former actor, so you take some DNA from his his minions that he left out in the streets of Gotham after Batman ended up having his run-ins with them. Like, you could have put that together. You kind of put me on the spot with it, but I felt like that would have been a phenomenal idea. And then like when we ended up talking about the Court of Owls, that particular situation, that was a possibility too as well. But now that I'm actually sitting down, I'm watching it or reading this quote, I'm like, okay, the Court of Owls definitely does make better sense here if we're being honest, because let's be real. All right, so there's a whole bunch of different variations of the Court of Owls as far as what they decided to do with that particular faction through whether it be comic book, TV show, video game. But simple definition of the Court of Owls is the Court of Owls is a violent group that has the oldest and wealthiest families who you basically murder people to influence their views throughout the city of Gotham. So it involves, obviously, it was a perfect transition in from Batman 1 to Batman 2, where obviously you have Gil Colson, the district attorney. He was a corrupt district attorney, where you had the old commissioner Pete Savage, obviously with the bust of Salvatore Maroni. That whole situation where obviously there were some corrupt cops on the Gotham PD payroll, where it goes a whole lot deeper. I would expect to see some corrupt judges. So if going back to the Court of Owls real quick, they could be influencing these strong-headed government officials where possible. I was trying to think, how could we put this in a perfect scenario, where I was thinking I was playing the Gotham Knights game. Not a very good game, but what they did with the Gotham Knights was phenomenal, where they ended up having Bob Kane. That was Bruce Wayne's uncle. He was one of the heads of the Court of Owls, which I feel like this would be perfect, where we have the uncle Bob Kane come into this movie. Obviously, he has a secret identity as the head of the Court of Owls, and then they obviously want to come handle business now, because you have the issue with the Riddler, which is played by Paul Dano's character, where, okay, you just exposed all of what we had going on, so now we got to get rid of you. That's number one. We got to get rid of Paul Dano, the Riddler. He's got to go. And then, of course, we got the Penguin TV show coming out in September, if I'm not mistaken, September 19th. So we can end up having that tie with the Penguin in the game, where the Penguin, obviously, he's wealthy in the game, but opposed to in the Batman, in this universe, Penguin's more of like he was Carmine Falcone's lieutenant, which I'm pretty sure after the events of the TV show, he's going to be promoted into being probably the next big thing in Gotham City, or a faction of Gotham City at this point. So I'm pretty sure the Court of Owls can influence the Penguin, and the level of street cred that the Court of Owls have in the video game per se is like, you don't speak their name. So it's going to be interesting how they are able to transition this, how they're going to make this into a story in the Batman 2 movie, which again, I feel like how they directed this movie, how it was written for the first Batman movie, was freaking phenomenal. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching the Batman 2 movie when it decides to come out. I'm excited at the fact that we actually have some news on this, because I was starting to get a little bit concerned. But I'm pretty sure 2025. I believe that was the original release date, but I'm thinking they're gonna push it back to 2026. Like, I'm extremely excited. But let me know what you guys think. Be sure to go ahead and hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. This is the Movie Fanatics. We will see you guys in the next one.